In 2020, a survey conducted by Mint found that approximately 40% of Americans felt financially behind, whether it related to savings goals, home ownership, or achieving financial stability. Which probably isn't a surprise. As we get older, there's sometimes a tendency to assign milestones to ages. And if we're not at a certain point by a certain stage, we might feel that we're falling behind. But while goals are good and provide focus, having these generic milestones can sometimes backfire and make us feel as if we're not measuring up to our peers or that we have to play catch up. So today we're going to talk a little bit about this and discuss a few things that might help if you're feeling financially behind in life. But before we get started, do me a favor and hit the like button and also subscribe if you like personal finance and you want to see more videos like this. So the first step is to pinpoint what's making you feel behind, and it's so important to be as specific as you can possibly be because you can't overcome this feeling until you understand what's fueling it. And some people might say, I'm just not where I want to be. And okay, that's a valid feeling, but that response is also a little too broad. So you might have to dig a little deeper in order to bring the root problem to the surface. And one thing that can help you narrow down what the actual problem is simply to ask yourself, where did you expect to be at this stage in your life? For example, maybe your friends are moving out and buying their own homes, and you thought you would be doing the same by this age or maybe by a younger age, yet you're still renting or living at home. Or maybe you thought you would have a certain amount in savings by this stage in your life, but you have a lot less. And not being able to hit certain goals can definitely demotivate us, no question about it. But as humans, and I don't know why we do this, but sometimes there's also a tendency to focus so much on the few things that we don't have that we completely ignore or overlook all the good things that we have. So the purpose of this first step is not only to isolate exactly what's making you feel behind, but also to start the process of gaining perspective, which we will talk more about in a moment. The next step is to ditch generic benchmarks. One huge mistake that some people make is setting milestones based on what they see their friends accomplish or on what they see on social media, or even based on what their parents were able to achieve at the same age, in spite living in different economic times. And all of this can kind of mess with our perception. And of course, it doesn't help when you have advice articles talking about things you need to do with your money before 25 or maybe 30. And I'm not saying that this information isn't useful, but one thing you have to remember is that although these articles can serve as a guide, there is no specific blueprint on where you need to be by a certain age. So there's no rule that says you have to buy a house by 30 or have a certain amount in savings by 35 or pay off your student loans by another age. It's not all black or white because much of what we're able to accomplish really depends on numerous factors, such as how much you're able to earn in your field, the economy or cost of living, and even personal circumstances. Because if you experience loss of income at any point or maybe an illness that prevents working full time, that could potentially delay some of your financial goals. So my point is, a lot of the benchmark advice we hear about money is often based on having the perfect circumstances or circumstances where most things work in your favor. So you do have to take it with a grain of salt. And honestly, I think that some of these generic financial benchmarks are designed to make us feel bad about ourselves, because even when you're doing everything right and you're doing the best that you can, sometimes it can be nearly impossible to precisely hit every milestone. You also have to realize that the playing field isn't always even. No matter where you are in life, there's always going to be the next level, and there's always going to be someone who's 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. And likewise, you're going to be a few steps ahead of others. And I do feel that a big part of feeling financially behind in life is giving too much attention to what others have, particularly those within our own age group, because if we start comparing ourselves to them, there might be a tendency to start feeling as if we should be at a similar place. But that's just not the way it works, because no 2 people have the exact same circumstances. Even if 2 people earn the same money, circumstances vary. So person A might simply be in a better position to save, take vacations, or buy a house. Maybe this person doesn't have student loan debt, or maybe they're single or have side hustles. They might receive some type of support from their parents, or they might have had financial wins that put them at an advantage. So much can go on behind the scenes that we don't even know about. And to be honest with you, when you start making comparisons, you're actually being unfair to yourself, because what you're doing is taking this person and putting them up on this pedestal, and in the process, you're downplaying your own accomplishments and ignoring how far you've come. So instead of focusing on the milestones of others, focus on the ones that you've achieved, because chances are you've had a few financial wins too, even if they were small. For example, did you put money in savings last month? If so, that's something to celebrate, because a lot of people don't save or feel that they can't save. Or maybe you don't have any credit card debt, or you make a habit of paying off your credit cards in full every single month. And if that is the case, that's something that you can celebrate too, because a lot of people finance their lifestyle. The final step is to set new goals. Goals are necessary, no doubt about it. But it's also important that you find what works for you based on your circumstances. So once you've identified specifically what it is that's making you feel financially behind, the next step is to come up with a plan to help you get to where you want to be. But you have to make sure that this plan is realistic and doable. And to illustrate, maybe you're feeling behind because you're 35 and you haven't bought a house yet. If this is still a goal, sit down and figure out how to achieve this. This might involve improving your credit score so you can qualify for a loan and a favorable rate, or maybe increasing your savings rate so you'll have money for the down payment and closing costs. And still using the goal of buying a house, typically you'll need a minimum down payment between 3.5 and 5% and another 2 to 5% for your closing costs. So one thing you might do is use a mortgage calculator to get a rough estimate of what you might be able to afford according to your income. Notice the emphasis on might. And then from here, you can calculate how much you'll likely need out of pocket for the purchase. And based on how much you're able to save a month, you can then decide a realistic timeline for possibly hitting this goal. And keep in mind, depending on the goal, it might take some time to get to where you want to be. It could take months, or it might even take years. But when you have a plan in place and it's realistic and you're watching yourself making progress, that in itself is enough to really keep you optimistic, because you're in control of your finances. So that's all that I have for you guys today. I really hope that you found this video to be useful. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you like personal finance, don't forget to subscribe. I typically post every weekend and sometimes during the week. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in a few days.